Namaste, everyone. Welcome to Preparing for the Shift. I'm Kathleen. This is the section on Earth changes. In this video, I'm going to go over two of Earth's changes: Earth's decrease in rotational speed and Earth's decrease in magnetic force. The third Earth change, which relates to Earth's electrical pulse, I will go over in the next video. If you haven't had the chance to look at the introductory video for this series, I recommend that you stop, go back and look at the introductory video, and then come back to this video. Scientists who study the ocean floor can tell how fast Earth's rotation is and the direction of Earth's rotation by studying the pattern on the ocean floor. Scientists know that Earth's rotational speed started to decrease 2,000 years ago. Now, no one is concerned. This is a natural Earth phenomenon that occurs every 26,000 years. So 52,000 years ago, the Earth was rotating and it started to slow down. The Earth's rotation stopped for 3 days, and then a continent went into the sea. So 52,000 years ago, the sun was rising in the east and going down in the west. And there was a continent between what is now Western United States that extended out to almost Japan. And this continent was called Lemuria. So 52,000 years ago, the Earth slowed down, the rotation slowed down, stopped, and the continent of Lemuria went into the sea. And then Earth started to rotate in the opposite direction, and the sun came up in the west and went down in the east. This slowing down of Earth's rotation, stopping, and then rotating in the other direction is called a shift. And a shift occurs every 26,000 years. 26,000 years ago, Earth's rotation started to slow down and stop. And during the 3 days, the city of Atlantis fell into the sea. Then Earth started rotating in the opposite direction, and the sun came up in the east and went down in the west, which is what happens today. Scientists know that the Earth is preparing for an upcoming shift because Earth's rotational speed started decreasing 2,000 years ago. The Mayan calendar predicted that this upcoming shift would be in 2012, but Earth's rotational speed wasn't slow enough in 2012. Also, the other factor, Earth's electrical pulse, it wasn't ready in 2012. Greg Brandon wrote a book called Awakening to Zero Point. And in 1997, he reported that in 1997, Earth's rotational speed had decreased by 38% in the last 2,000 years. In 2020, Earth's rotational speed had decreased 50%. So in 2020, Earth's rotational speed was ready, and the other variable, Earth's electrical pulse, was also ready. So Earth is ready. Human beings are not. And I will explain why that is in an upcoming video. So what does that mean that Earth's rotational speed is decreasing? One thing it means is that our day is no longer 24 hours. The National Bureau of Standards in Boulder, Colorado, periodically adjusts the atomic clock so that you don't even notice that the day is longer than 24 hours. The other thing that happens is that we're having more earthquakes and new fault lines. The decrease in rotational speed is affecting what scientists call the tectonic plates. Tectonic plates are basically pieces of rock that rub over each other. Sometimes they crash on each other and create a mountain. Over millions of years, the tectonic plates change how the Earth looks. The decrease in rotational speed of the Earth has affected the tectonic plates so that there are more earthquakes. You'll also see that there are new fault lines. If you watch the news, you'll see that they'll report that there's new earthquakes in areas that didn't have earthquakes before. The third thing that's happening is that the decrease in Earth's rotational speed is decreasing the magnetic force of the Earth. To understand that, we have to discuss a little bit about magnetic force. Magnetic force is created when an electrical current spins around a stationary iron object. So if you take your left finger and imagine that this is a stationary iron object, and you take the right finger and you imagine that it's an electrical force spinning around this iron object, you will get an imaginary magnetic force that comes off your finger at a perpendicular level on both sides. It also will have direction. So in our case, we're going to have it come from the top of the finger and go down to the bottom of the finger on both sides. Science defines the beginning of the magnetic force, or the top of the magnetic force, as magnetic north, and the bottom as magnetic south. Now, a couple of things about magnetic force. The faster the electrical current goes around your stationary iron object, the larger your magnetic force. And then the slower your electricity goes around the iron object, the smaller the magnetic force. The other thing happens that if you take your electrical circuit and change its direction, what will happen is that the magnetic field will flow now from the bottom of your finger up to the top of your finger. So magnetic north now becomes the bottom of your finger, and magnetic south becomes the top of your finger. So let's apply this to Earth. Earth has 4 layers. The outer layer is the crust. That's what you see. You see the land. The second layer is the mantle. The mantle is mostly solid rock and makes up over 80% of the total Earth mass, and has the electrical currents that basically, guide these tectonic plates. The next layer is the outer core. The outer core is really hot, and so it's made up of nickel and iron, and it is liquid. And then you have the inner core. Now, the inner core is also really hot, and it is made up of iron and nickel, but the pressure from the outer 3 layers of Earth makes the inner core a solid. So the inner core is a solid iron and nickel. So the other thing is that this inner core, it rotates, but it rotates so much slower than the outer 3 layers that it's almost a stationary iron object. So if you take the inner core as a stationary iron piece, and you take the other 3 layers and you rotate them around this iron piece, you will get a magnetic force for the Earth. So in our imaginary example, your left finger becomes the inner core, your right hand becomes the 3 layers of Earth, and if you spin around the inner core, you create a magnetic force that comes off of magnetic north, which we call the North Pole, and it goes down to magnetic south, which we call the South Pole. Now remember that the speed of the electrical current going around a stationary iron object will determine the size of your magnetic force. So the faster you go, the larger magnetic force. Now, so as Earth's rotational speed is slowing down, Earth's magnetic force is decreasing. The other thing that's interesting about magnetic force is that it's not equal all around the world. There are sections of the Earth that have a magnetic force that is lower than other parts of the world. And there are sections of the world where magnetic force is higher than other parts of the world. The scientists define areas that have a similar magnetic force as magnetic fields. So, for example, in the United States, the southern part of the United States has a higher magnetic force than the western, northern, northeastern part of the United States. So the United States has two magnetic fields, and part of it, the southern part, has the higher magnetic force, and the rest of the United States has the lower magnetic force. Another example would be the Middle East has a very high magnetic force, and Europe has a lower magnetic force. The other interesting thing that's happening with these magnetic fields is they're shifting. As the Earth's rotational speed is slowing down, these magnetic fields are shifting. If you're interested in magnetic fields, check out the internet. There's all kinds of pictures of them all over the world. It's really interesting to look at the magnetic fields. So let's recap. Earth's rotational speed is slowing down. That means our days are longer than 24 hours. You don't notice it because, we're fixing it. There are more earthquakes and the fault lines, new fault lines. And also, as the Earth's rotational speed decreases, our magnetic force, our overall magnetic force for the Earth is decreasing. The magnetic fields are actually shifting. Remember that your truth can change as you get more information. So I am hoping that I gave you enough information so that your truth will now incorporate the fact that Earth's rotational speed is slowing down. Also remember that you were created by a creator that gave you free will. You have a choice as to what you will have as your truth. You have a choice as to what you will believe. So it's your choice. Hope to see you soon.